I sit by the window in a small cafe in the city center. Outside, there's a bustle. People hurry, wrap themselves in scarves, carry bags with gifts. The air is filled with the scent of cinnamon, vanilla, and freshly brewed coffee. Inside, it's warm. The dim lighting creates a cozy atmosphere. But inside me, there's emptiness. I take a sip of my latte, but the taste doesn't bring any joy. This year, everything feels different. The garlands, the decorated windows, even the soft Christmas melody. It all seems foreign. I don't feel any anticipation of the holiday, nor any joy. The door jingles as the bell rings, and I see him right away. Michael. He walks toward me, takes off his scarf, sits down across from me. He pulls out his phone, glances at the screen quickly, then looks at me. "Hi," he says, tearing himself away from the screen. I nod. I don't feel like smiling. He looks the same as always. Dark coat, neatly combed hair. His voice is steady, familiar. But something between us has cracked a long time ago. "How was your day?" he asks. I want to say honestly, empty, boring, lonely. Instead, I give a routine answer. "Fine." Michael sighs, places his elbows on the table. "Listen." He pauses as if searching for the right words. "We need to talk." I look at my coffee, at the brown foam which is already losing its shape. "Again?" He presses his lips together in dissatisfaction. "Leah, you know this can't go on. We're behaving like strangers." I remain silent. He's right, but I don't want to hear it right now. "Maybe we just won't ruin anything today?" I say quietly. "Ruining what?" Michael leans back in his chair, crosses his arms. His voice holds no anger, just weariness. "You know everything yourself." I do. I've known for a long time. We're holding on to the past, to old habits, to anything, except each other. "Maybe we should just stay quiet," I ask. Michael looks at me for a few seconds, then takes his coffee. He sips it and nods. We sit across from each other, surrounded by the smells of coffee and pastries, the New Year's coziness in which neither of us can find warmth anymore. After the argument, I don't feel like staying in the cafe. I quickly put on my coat, throw on my scarf, and step out into the street. The icy air burns my face, but right now it's almost pleasant. Better than sitting there at the table, swallowing unsaid words yet again. I walk quickly without a destination, just to keep moving. Around me, people hurry, laugh. Some are arguing over which decorations to buy for the tree. It all seems distant, as though I'm watching life through glass. "Leah." I stop abruptly. The voice is familiar, but I don't immediately recognize whose it is. I turn around and freeze. Standing before me is Alex, my stepbrother, whom I haven't seen in several years. We used to be close, but then life took us in different directions. His hair is a bit longer than I remember, and there's a light stubble on his cheeks. He smiles, but there's something unclear in his eyes, as if he's unsure whether to be happy about the meeting or not. "Alex?" I say his name as if testing whether he's real. "The real deal." He smirks. "Honestly, I didn't think I'd run into you like this, in the middle of the crowd." Neither did I. We stand in silence for a couple of seconds, looking at each other. Then he asks, "Are you in a hurry?" "No." "Then let's take a walk." I nod. We walk through the snow-covered streets, past decorated windows and old buildings. For the first while, we talk about superficial things. How life is, what we're up to. I tell him about my work, and Alex shares that he's been living in another city for the past few years, but recently moved back. "And how does it feel to be back here?" I ask. He smirks. "Everything seems smaller than I remember. You know that feeling?" I nod. Of course I know. For a moment, there's silence between us, but not tense. Peaceful. "We haven't seen each other in a long time," he says. "Yeah. We should fix that." I smile. "How about we go to the bookstore?" "The one where we used to spend hours?" I think of the cozy little shop a few blocks away and suddenly feel like I really want to go there. Let's go. And we head there as if all the years apart never happened. When we reach the bookstore, I briefly hesitate at the entrance. The shop hasn't changed much. The same old facade, the fogged-up windows through which endless rows of books can be seen. Alex is the first to open the door, letting me inside. The bell jingles above us, stirring up memories. We used to stop by here often after school, argue about books, sometimes even hide the ones we liked so no one else would buy them before us. Inside, there's the smell of paper, coffee, and something warm, almost homey. The shelves are packed with books, and here and there, cozy lamps are lit. Nothing's changed, Alex says quietly. I look at him and realize that he feels the same way I do. It's like we're kids again, I reply, walking between the aisles. I run my fingers along the spines of the books, noticing familiar titles. I stop by the detective section. Alex always loved them. He walks over to me and picks up an old book with a worn cover from the shelf. "Do you remember this series?" he asks, showing it to me. I smile. "You made me read it when I was 11, even though I was more into other things back then." "Yeah, but you admitted they were pretty cool." He grins. I laugh, remembering how he practically made sure I finished them. "Maybe you should reread them," Alex adds. "Could help you take your mind off." He pauses for a second. "Off what?" "Off everything," he shrugs. I realize he's hinting at my state, at what he sees in me. The exhaustion. "Maybe I should," I reply softly, taking the book from his hands. We continue wandering through the store, reminiscing about old stories. At one point, Alex remembers how I once lost my scarf here, only to find it later in the philosophy section. "I think that was a sign," he says. "A sign for what?" "For the fact that even scarves sometimes look for answers." I laugh again. When we finally leave the store, the evening seems less dark than it was. The air is still frosty, but I feel warmer. "I'm glad I ran into you today," Alex says, shoving his hands into his pockets. "Me too." And we stand in front of the shop, among the Christmas lights, with books in our hands, as if time has turned back. When I return home, the apartment is dark and quiet. Snow continues to fall outside in soft flakes, and in this silence, I suddenly realize how exhausted I am. But this time, the exhaustion isn't just physical. It's something deeper, pulling from within. I throw my coat over the back of a chair, place the book I bought at the bookstore on the nightstand, and head to the bathroom. The hot water washes away the tension of the day, but my thoughts keep swirling in my mind. Michael. Our conversation. Alex. Childhood memories. Everything blends into one, making it hard to relax. When I step out of the bathroom, my phone is blinking on the nightstand. Several missed calls. Michael. I look at the screen but don't pick up. A few seconds later, a message pops up. "Leah, let's talk. I want to explain. Please answer." I sigh, toss the phone onto the bed, and lie down, burying my face in the pillow. I know this tone. I know these words. They always lead to the same thing. The endless circle of conversations that never go anywhere. But before I can completely shut off, my phone vibrates again. I reach for it, expecting another message from Michael, but on the screen is a different name. Alex. "If you're free tomorrow, help me pick a gift for the parents. I'm terrible at this, and you always knew what to get. We can also have something warm to drink." I feel the corners of my mouth tremble into a faint smile. I delete Michael's message. I tuck my phone under the pillow. I fall asleep with the thought that tomorrow will be something different. Not a heavy conversation, not a dragging, unraveling of relationships. Just a day that doesn't weigh me down. The next morning, the weather is cold but sunny. I stand by the window, wrapped in a warm sweater, watching the city come to life. The cars shine under a thin layer of snow, and passers-by hide their noses in scarves. Alex pulls up right on time. I get in the car, and the warmth of the interior immediately envelops me. Soft music plays through the speakers, and the faint steam rising from the hot cups of coffee he brought with him fills the car with a cozy atmosphere. Ready for an adventure? He asks with a smirk, handing me one of the cups. I smile and take a sip. The coffee is hot, with a subtle caramel flavor. As for adventures, I'm not sure, but we definitely need to pick out gifts. I reply. The drive out of the city is calm. Snow-covered trees drift by, and there are occasional houses with bright garlands decorating the facades. We're not in a rush, and unlike most of our childhood trips, there's no hustle in this car. Just silence, occasionally interrupted by jokes and memories. The shopping center turns out to be small but cozy. The windows are decorated with bright lights, and Christmas melodies play everywhere. We wander through the stores, picking out gifts for our parents: a warm blanket, a rare tea set, aromatic candles that our mom loves to light on winter evenings. I'd definitely end up buying something useless without you, Alex says, looking at the gifts we've gathered. Like what? Something strange, like a piggy bank shaped like a potato or a t-shirt that says Best Dad. I laugh, imagining our father's face. Good thing I'm here. After much searching, we enter a small cafe where the air smells of apple cider and baked goods. Alex orders 2 hot drinks, and while we wait, he unexpectedly says, I broke up with my girlfriend recently. I turn to him, a bit surprised. Really recently? He nods as if it's not a big deal. Yeah, but it wasn't dramatic. It just became clear that it wasn't going anywhere. I know exactly what he means. Too well. Are you sad? He takes a sip of cider, staring out the window. No, more like empty. But that's even better than forced happiness. I'm quiet, processing his words. They perfectly describe what I feel in my relationship with Michael. When we step out of the cafe, the air smells of snow and something fresh, new. Alex walks next to me, his hands in his pockets, a light smile on his face. I catch myself thinking that, in this moment, I feel calm. As calm as I haven't felt in a long time. On the way back, the road seems longer. Snow-covered trees flicker outside, and the occasional street lamp lights up the empty highway. The car is warm. Soft music plays in the background, but I sense that the silence between us is about to turn into something important. Alex keeps his hands on the wheel, his gaze focused on the road, but it's clear he's thinking about more than just the drive. The car gently sways on the turns, and the headlights cast shadows of roadside signs. Are you happy with Michael? His voice is calm, without pressure, but the question still catches me off guard. I don't answer immediately because I know there's no point in politely brushing it off right now. Am I happy? I think back to yesterday evening, the phone calls, the messages I didn't want to read. I recall the meeting in the cafe, the strained conversations, the empty attempts to hold on to something that's already crumbled. No, I answer honestly. Alex isn't surprised. He just gives a short nod. It's as if he was expecting this answer. He remains silent for a while, giving me space to process my own words. Outside, the snow continues to rush by in a white blur, and something inside me slowly begins to release. We keep driving, and an old song comes on the radio, the one that used to play during our childhood. I recognize it from the first chords. A moment later, Alex taps his fingers on the wheel in time with the music, then, as if nothing happened, begins to sing along. I smile. A second later, I catch the melody. And now we're singing together, as if nothing serious just happened. As if the conversation left nothing in the air but just words. When I return home, the snow has already covered the streets with an even white layer. The city is immersed in pre-New Year's silence. Rare cars pass by, and muffled voices drift in from somewhere. The hallway is warm, but the air is heavy, smelling of old wood and something sweet. I head up to my floor, and as I approach the door, I notice a familiar figure. Michael. He stands by the entrance, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed over his chest. There's no irritation or anger on his face, but I know that look. Persistent. Demanding. You didn't answer, he says instead of a greeting. I silently take out my keys and insert them into the lock. We need to talk, Leah. I don't want to talk. After the long day, after the trip with Alex, after already admitting the obvious to myself. But I know Michael. If I don't listen to him now, he'll be looking for another moment, another opportunity. I open the door and without looking at him say, "Come in." He steps inside, takes off his scarf and looks around, as if something in the apartment has changed. But it's not the place that's changed. It's me. I throw my bag on the chair, take off my coat and turn to face him. Talk. Michael drops his shoulders and sighs. His voice sounds softer than usual. I don't want everything to end like this. I look at him, and there's no anger, no resentment left in me. Just exhaustion. How do you want it to end? I ask. He takes a step closer, placing his hands on the back of the chair. I want us to try again. I want to understand where we went wrong. I slowly shake my head. We didn't go wrong. It's just over. Michael presses his lips together, as if he doesn't want to hear these words. Are you just going to let us go like this? I run my hand over my temple, feeling the rising tension. There is no us anymore, Michael. We're holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore. He looks down, his fingers nervously tapping on the wood. Is it because of him? I flinch. Who? Alex. There's no open jealousy in Michael's voice, but there's something sharp, something that catches. It's not about Alex, I say firmly. It's about us. We're unhappy, Michael. You know that. He falls silent. He stares at me for a long moment, then straightens up. All right. He takes his coat, slowly putting it on. I feel that he's waiting, hoping that I'll stop him, that I'll change my mind. But I won't. When the door closes behind him, the apartment falls silent. Not a suffocating silence, but a different one. A light, free one. I take a deep breath and look at the window, where the snow continues to fall. I thought this conversation would leave an unpleasant residue, but instead I feel lighter than I have in the past few months. After Michael leaves, I stand by the window for a long time, watching him walk down the street without looking back. The snow falls slowly, swirling in the light from the street lamps. The world feels muffled, as if someone has covered it with a warm blanket. The apartment is unusually quiet. I turn off the lights, leaving only the nightlight on, and sink into the couch. My mind feels empty, but not in the painful way, when thoughts press down on me, but in a light, freeing sense. My gaze accidentally falls on an old bookshelf in the corner. On the bottom shelf is a familiar photo album, covered in a thin layer of dust. I reach for it, flip through the pages, breathing in the scent of the yellowed paper. And there they are, the photos from my childhood. In one picture, I'm 10 years old. I'm sitting in the snow, laughing, while Alex, with red cheeks from the cold, builds a snow fort. Our parents stand a little farther away, invisible in the shot. But I remember that moment. Their voices, laughter, the feeling of complete happiness. I run my finger over the faded image. Back then, everything was simple. Alex and I could play outside for hours, building castles, having snowball fights, coming home wet but infinitely happy. I turn the page. Another picture. Summer, swings by the old house. Alex is holding them with one hand, and I'm sitting with my legs thrown over the seat, laughing as he pushes me. I smile. I close the album, press it to my chest, and sit there for a while, staring into the darkness. Lately, I feel more at peace with Alex than with anyone else. Not because he's doing something special, but simply because he's there. For the first time in a long time, I don't try to analyze this feeling. I just accept it. The next morning, the day greets me with pale winter light streaming through the curtains. I feel lighter than yesterday. Inside, there's no more heaviness, no sense of being stuck in the endless repetition of the same conversations. I make coffee and lazily scroll through the news on my phone until a message from Alex pops up. I'm coming to get you. Wear something warm. I smile, though I still don't know where we're headed. There's no point in asking. Alex has always loved spontaneous plans. Half an hour later, I'm sitting in his car, wrapped up in a scarf. The road is familiar, but I don't immediately realize where we're going. It's only when snow-covered trees start flashing past and a frozen lake comes into view that it hits me. "Are you serious?" I ask as he parks near the old park. "Of course," he replies, getting out of the car. "This was our place." He's right. As kids, we often came here with our parents. We skated on the ice, drank hot chocolate from a thermos, built snowmen. Then, as we grew older, we just wandered along the frozen paths, talking about everything under the sun. I step onto the crunchy snow and breathe in the crisp air. Everything looks almost the same as it did back then. The lake is covered with ice, and the bare trees around it are frosted with a delicate layer of hoarfrost. We walk down the familiar path, and Alex begins to tell stories from his life. About work, about people he met in the other city. I listen, but I catch myself realizing that I know less about him now than I did before. "We've lost a lot of time, haven't we?" I say suddenly. Alex nods, a slight smile playing on his lips. "It happens, but it feels like we're making up for it now." We continue walking, leaving deep footprints in the snow. Sometimes he shakes snowflakes off the branches. Sometimes he just falls into silence, lost in his thoughts. I feel like I don't want this day to end. At one point, Alex stops, glances at me, and unexpectedly says, "I'm glad you turned around that day." I don't immediately understand what he means, but then I remember the day he called out to me on the street. And what if I hadn't turned around? I would have caught up anyway. He smirks. I laugh. The winter around us feels soft, almost warm. The wind is cold, but I'm not cold. In this park, beside him, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Light. Free. And for the first time in a long time, happy. When I return home, the evening feels especially quiet. A light scent of vanilla and cinnamon lingers in the air. Probably my neighbors are baking something for the holidays. I take off my coat, slip off my shoes, and absent-mindedly turn on the string lights on the shelf. The room becomes cozier, but inside me, thoughts still swirl. I feel something shifting within me. Slowly. Just yesterday, I felt stuck in an endless loop of uncertainty. But now I know what I don't want. The phone sits on the nightstand, and I'm hardly surprised when it lights up with an incoming call. "Michael." The phone falls silent, but within a few seconds, a message comes through. "Leah, let's meet. I'm still thinking about us. Give me a chance to explain." I read these words, and there's no tightening of pain in my chest. No hope rises, no familiar feeling of guilt. Just calm. I sit down on the couch, take the cup of cold tea in my hands, and for a few minutes, I simply stare out the window. I thought this moment would be harder. That I would hesitate, struggle, try to find the right words. But they come easily, without strain. I type my response. "No, Michael. It's really over. Let's not drag this out any longer." Send. I turn the phone screen down, as if to distance myself from any potential follow-up messages. The apartment returns to its silence, but now it doesn't feel like emptiness. It feels like something new. I realize that I've done what I was afraid to do. I've drawn a line. And that line doesn't bring pain, doesn't leave regrets. I lean back against the pillow, close my eyes. Now in front of me lies the unknown. For the first time in a long while, I don't know what comes next. But for the first time, that doesn't scare me. The next morning, I get a message from Alex. "Leaving tomorrow. Let's meet?" I read the short words several times as if trying to understand them anew. Tomorrow. Already. A warm sadness rises inside me, but I quickly agree. To be honest, I don't want to say goodbye. But maybe this time the goodbye won't be as heavy as it might have been just a couple of weeks ago. We meet closer to noon. The snow continues to fall in slow flakes, and the air feels especially cold and pure. Alex is waiting for me by the familiar cafe, hands shoved into the pockets of his coat. "You were the first one I told about this," he says when we step inside and sit at the table by the window. I look at him, studying his face, memorizing every feature. "Why?" Alex shrugs slightly, as if he doesn't fully understand himself, but then answers, "Because I wanted you to know." The cafe smells of coffee and chocolate, and around us, people are discussing their pre-holiday worries, laughing, planning their celebrations. We, however, just sit, feeling the time slip away through our fingers. "How long will you be gone?" I ask, trying not to let my voice betray too much emotion. "I don't know," he answers honestly. "It all depends on work, how things go. Maybe a couple of months, maybe longer." I nod, pretending it doesn't affect me. "And you? What's next?" I know that he's not just asking about plans. He wants to know what will happen with me now that I've finally let go of the past. I take a sip of coffee, feeling its bitter taste, and smile. I think everything's just beginning. We don't speak aloud about what we feel. We don't discuss whether anything will happen when he comes back, if things between us will change. But I feel that this moment is important. When we say goodbye, he holds my hand for a long time. "Don't forget about me," he says quietly before letting go. I smile, as if I could. He leaves first, melting into the crowd. I stand there for a few seconds, breathing in the frosty air. I don't know what comes next, but I'm no longer afraid of the unknown. I look at the falling snow and realize that for the first time in a long time, I feel alive. Several days pass, and I wake up early in the morning, feeling how everything in the house has changed. The pull of worry is no longer there. The question of what happens next no longer troubles me. Instead, a sense of lightness comes, as if I have more space for new thoughts, new feelings. A peace that had been unfamiliar to me for so long fills every room. I return to my old passions. I draw, read books I had long put off. In the evenings, I find myself walking more often through the empty winter streets, listening to the silence and feeling how the snow covering the earth gradually cleanses me as well. Small worries disappear, and I allow myself to simply be myself. A week later, I get a new message from Alex. He writes that he's settled into a new job in another city, but promises he'll return in a few months. I reply that I'll be happy to see him, but without the expectations I had before. I realize that this is not the end. It's a new phase, one that's not tied to the past and its attachments. Michael still writes to me from time to time. His messages have gotten shorter, but they no longer have the effect on me that they once did. I don't feel the need to respond to them, and that sense of freedom doesn't scare me. I think about how, to start something new, it's important to let go of the old. And that process isn't always tied to regret. Sometimes it's just a matter of time. I've learned to let go, and this lesson helps me move forward. One day, a few months later, I wake up on an ordinary weekday and suddenly realize I'm ready. Ready to rebuild my life, to open myself to new possibilities. And now I know for sure that I'm not alone in this. As I move from one stage to another, I am not afraid, not anxious. Because every moment, every decision I make makes me stronger. That day, I decide to take the first step in a new direction, to enroll in the courses I've always put off, to dedicate time to something that has always brought me joy but that I had put on the back burner. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm certain that today will mark the beginning of something important. Now I understand that everything that happened before wasn't a coincidence. These were lessons that helped me find my way. And with each new step, I come closer to the version of myself I've been searching for all along. Several months pass, and life seems to become clearer. My days are filled with routine tasks, but there's a sense that each moment has become more conscious. Everything I do now is no longer tied to expectations or worries about what has been or what might be. I allow myself to make mistakes, to learn, to be real. I continue attending the courses I signed up for at the beginning of the year. The lessons give me not only knowledge, but confidence. I've started doing things I once dreamed about, but always put off. In the evenings, after class, I meet up with friends, sometimes just walk around the city, listen to music, or read a book. There's no rush or anxiety, just a world that I can explore. One day, after a class, I decide to visit the same bookstore Alex once took me to. It's still the same, right by the window, with shelves filled with books and cozy lamps creating a warm atmosphere. This place, it seems, hasn't changed since the last time we were here. I wander around the store, flipping through books, coming across familiar titles, those that I once read with him. Everything feels familiar, but at the same time, new. I realize I don't miss the past. I've simply let it go. After leaving the store, not noticing how quickly time has passed, I look up at the sky. It's evening, and the air is still filled with the chill of winter. But there's something light about it, something that reminds me I can start over if I choose to. I am no longer afraid of change. Each day, I learn to accept it with gratitude. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but now that doesn't scare me. I've learned to appreciate every moment, every step forward, no matter how big or small. And most importantly, I've learned to be ready for whatever new things life has in store for me. Without regrets, without looking back at what has already been. Just with an open heart and the readiness to keep moving forward. Each day, I feel more and more how my life is returning to its usual rhythm, but now with a completely new pace. The world around me remains the same, but I no longer perceive it as I once did. Everything seems clearer, as if I've finally removed the veil from my eyes and began to see it for what it truly is, without the extra hustle and worry. I continue attending the courses that have become an important part of my life, finding not only useful knowledge but also new opportunities for self-development. With every class, I discover something new about myself. Sometimes it feels as though I've started living anew, not in the sense of forgetting the past, but in the sense that I've learned to see the future not as something frightening, but as an exciting and multidimensional space. When evening comes, I often walk the streets of the city, which now seems like something I've started to admire again. Sometimes I find new cafes I hadn't noticed before, or small bookstores I never knew existed. With every step, I feel like I'm cleansing myself, as if throwing away old doubts and fears, preparing for new experiences and encounters. One such evening, I accidentally run into an old acquaintance, a person with whom I was never especially close but who once left an imprint on my life. We talk about the past, but without attachment, without regrets. I feel that this meeting is not by chance, but exactly the one that was meant to happen. We laugh, and I suddenly realize how many new faces and people I will meet along the way. Alex calls me, and I realize I can talk to him not as the person I once spent many years with, but as a friend, someone with whom it's interesting to discuss everything that's happening. And although I don't know where I will be a month or a year from now, I am no longer afraid of change. I've learned to let go. I've learned to be myself in any situation, and now I understand that this is where freedom lies. Every day brings something new, but it no longer causes anxiety. I meet this world with an open heart, ready for any twist it may throw my way.